ready at 5:30 and it is 7 and I still wasn't ready. And I was like, y'all have no idea how nervous I am about doing this. I was just like, do I have this? Do I have this? Is this going to be okay? And then, yeah. Whew. Alrighty. So, hi. Good evening. Okay. Here's what I want. Oh, hold on. I told you guys I would record this. So give me 2 seconds to, I know there's a record button. Hold on.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So let me say before we get started, I'm going to record these so that they can be available on playback, which means that they are different to the normal meetings. So if you do not want your face to be seen, or you do not want what you say to be viewed later, then just know ahead of time that I'm going to do these as recordable events where the normal meetings are not. So completely understand if from a privacy standpoint, you don't want to be involved because we are recording it. But that way, people who aren't in the same time zone can still come back and join us. So, all right. And let me see. I want to do this a little bit differently than the normal weekly meetings. So instead of going over the weekly topic, which your other coaches will, and I saw that Monica joined us today, so she's going to have Thursday meetings. Hey, Penny. So instead of doing that, I'm basically going to do a series that is going to tie together, hopefully, the same kind of inspiration and motivation that I want to give you in a meeting, but I'm actually going to tie it together with some cooking or prep or things that surprisingly go together with it. This is also where I'm going to do that Instant Pot series, which is actually part of episode 2. And so I'll tell you guys a bit more about that once we make it through the first one. Okay, so part of what I wanted to talk about tonight is we see on a really regular basis people who are saying, you know, I dragged the wagon into the woods and burned it down, and it was, you know, it dragged me along for miles. And we talk a lot about, almost I feel, in the negative. So we talk about, I've fallen off the wagon, or I failed, or and it's not to say that you don't recognize your successes, but I hear this wagon analogy tons and tons of times. So I wanted to try something. And if you have printed out the 2 pages, basically we have the wagon, and then we have the Success Express. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, you will have gotten the reference to platform 9 3/4, which is just a geeky way of me saying all aboard the train. So I want to shift your thinking away from I've failed and I've fallen off the wagon. I want us this year to kick that wagon away for good. I don't want you to have to think about that at all. And I want to start reframing. I want you to retrain your brain, and I want to start reframing things into positive success. So we are going to have a Success Express, and I would love for those people who want to, here's the exercise that I sort of planned for you for this week. On the sheet, and if you didn't print out the sheets, you're not missing anything. It's just an image at the top and a blank piece of paper. It is in the files section, but you could just do this on a normal piece of paper. So here's the thing. On the burning wagon section, I want you to think about the things that you say to yourself that are negative, and I want you to write them on that sheet. Anything that you tell yourself, whether you feel it's true or not, if it is a negative thought or habit that you do, that you want to get rid of, that you want to give up and push out of your life, Now is the time to think about what those things are. What do you say to yourself? What do you tell yourself? What do you believe about yourself that does not help and in most cases actually impedes your success? What are those things that you would never say to a friend struggling with the same problems? What are those things, what are those obstacles that either get in the way or we have put in the way of ourselves that are stopping us from being as successful as we can? When you can identify those things, when you can really nail it down to the nitty-gritty and you can say, you know what, I recognize that I do this even unintentionally, but it's still a form of self-sabotage, or it's still not a good thing for me. And that's going to be different for everybody. Everybody is going to have a different perspective and different obstacles, but this is an opportunity for you to get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, and by creating it physically. It's like when we talked about taking a goal and making it a plan. The difference is the action. So when you actually create some type of action, you start forward momentum, and then it's easier to kind of keep going. It's pretty easy to say, oh yeah, I say this about myself, and then you forget it and you kind of just let it go. So I want you to write it down. And if you want to write it in great big black permanent marker and, take up 10 pages, do that. If you just want to draw something that's like a freehand version of what it represents to you, but that if somebody else saw it, they may not know, do that. If you want to journal it, vlog it, blog it, do that. The idea of having the printed page is that you can then do one of two things with it. You can either keep it as a reminder, or we can take that action one step further and we can go, okay, you know what? I am literally going to burn this wagon full of negativity, full of all of these things that are standing in my way. And when you've got somewhere safe to do it, please don't set your trash can on fire. When you have somewhere safe to do it, take that and burn that piece of paper. And I've said before that some of the stuff that I'll tell you guys almost comes across a little bit hippy-dippy, but this was an exercise or a variation of an exercise that I did in therapy a long time ago for a different plan, a different obstacle, but the same thing still applies. If you can get it out of your head, get it out of your system, at least for now, and then if you want to take it further, you can do that too. And you can make as much or as little of it as you want. And some people may just be like, not my thing. And that's okay. I've explained to you what to do if you want to do it. And, you guys kind of go from there. So, oh, okay. So I've not been to AA meetings, but I have been. Al-Anon is for, basically I went to Children of Alcoholics. There was a group for that, which I think is similar to Al-Anon. So yeah, I know that it occurs in a lot of different therapy types. Oh, families. Okay. Yeah. Been there, done that. Okay. So that's that part. I had a little random squirrel moment. And I'm going to try and stay on track tonight, guys. I was suddenly thinking about other stuff that applied to Al-Anon, so focus. Okay, second page, platform 9 3/4. It is the opposite of your burning wagon. This is where I want you to think about those things that you've said are holding you back. What does success look like to you? What concrete things, as opposed to just an idea, can you put into action to help you become more successful? What are things that maybe that you need to do, but you're like, okay, I can't because I don't want to, I don't have time, I don't have, like, if you can identify the obstacle, decide whether that obstacle is actually overcomable, and if it is, you're going to put how you're going to overcome that obstacle on your Success Express train page. And if it's an obstacle that you can't, there's no way around, which I don't know that there are many of those, but if there's just something that you cannot go around or over, then we have to sidestep it and basically go, okay, I can't deal with this right now, but I can do this. And if you can figure out those concrete steps and start moving forward on those, even just little tiny bits at a time, I hope that it will make this year more successful and easier for you, because you are shifting that focus away from what you can't do onto what you can do. So you can feel more successful and start building the momentum and really getting an opportunity to move forward. Now, so I can read your comments, but one of the other things, and I know I forgot about the whole raising your hand thing, but and you're welcome to still do that, but if you want to, if anybody wants to share anything that they sort of, like what I just said, does it resonate with you? Do you have something that you're like, yes, let's kill this year, let's get rid of this obstacle? Does anybody have anything related to this that they want to share? As I get all squeaky. If you do, you can just turn your mic on and you can just talk to me.
Well, fiddlesticks. Here I am, just all charged up, ready to go.
Okay, go! Go, Carla, go!
Go. So, we live in an area that can get cold and foggy, and it's not very conducive for me to get out and go walking, which I need to do because I have a 70-pound dog. So, I set up my back room that had been all cluttered, not set up for success for exercising, and I have a cabinet to put my equipment in, all my Pilates stuff and bands and things, with a heater and a lamp and a spot to put my computer so I can go for it.
Okay.
Set up my own exercise room.
And that's done? You've completed that part?
It's in process.
In process,
I have
okay.
it halfway done. Yep.
So are you better if you have a timeline, or worse? Do we say by next week's meeting you commit to having it done?
Next week's meeting, it will be done, and I will have done something in it.
Da-da-da-da! Okay.
I'm writing it down.
You heard it here. We're holding Carla to it. All right.
Yes.
So she's going to have finished her room, and I think that's a great way to do that. I also have a 70-pound dog. But yeah, he doesn't get as many walks as he used to, and he's getting older, so it's okay. It's not as bad, but yeah, I feel you there. We had lovely, beautiful snow yesterday.
Just turned 1.
You say he just turned 1?
Yes, he's just a 1-year-old dog.
Aww.
He's part husky, so he needs a lot of activity.
Yes, the dog trainer in me goes, husky, I know that. Yeah. All right, let's see. Does anybody else want to throw something in there? I can see all the names. I was just checking. Oh, look. I see Carla's hand. Is your hand supposed to?
Mary.
All right, Penny, did you want to tell us about what you're going to do?
Oh, I'm just saying hello to Mary. I'm sorry she just popped in.
No, that's okay. I couldn't tell because you flipped up on my thing. I was like, oh, okay, Penny wants me. Okay.
Hi, Penny.
All right. So it's one of those things that for me, to be prepared or for me to be successful, this is a big part of it. So I cook for a neighbor of mine a couple of days a week, and some of what I'm going to do tonight is for me and her, and some of it is just things that I'm just going to prep a little bit so that I have it, because I know that I have things coming up during the week that I'm going to use it for. And my version of meal prep is not the same as most people who do like 5 of the same dish. You know, you cook one and then you have it like every day for lunch. So when I talk about meal prep or meal ideas, that for me is not what I mean. It absolutely can be, but it's not. I do very few leftovers, really, unless I'm doing like freezer meals. But for me, it means if I get to a meal that's going to be dinner, and I know that I'm going to be more tired or probably going to be hurting because the weather's changing, if I can make something ahead of time that is then ready so I don't have to do it in that evening gap when I know I'm going to be less inclined to do it, then I'm utilizing my energy in a way that is better for me to be more successful. Because there has been more than one night where I get to dinner and I either just hurt too much and don't want to do anything, or if I didn't have anything prepped or frozen that wasn't really simple, then I was just like, oh, well, I just won't have anything, or I'll have ramen noodles, or, something that was not necessarily the best choice. Now, I don't have a whole lot here that aren't good choices, but at the same time, most of my choices take a lot of prep. And so I thought, while we're kind of talking about stuff tonight, there are 3 things that I'm going to do. I mean, there's more stuff that I'm doing during the week, but I know that I have a couple of dishes that I wanted to do a pico. Now, if you're familiar with pico, basically it is like chunky salsa. So if you go to a Mexi restaurant and you have the salsa that has the really fine blend and it's almost like Rotel out of the can kind of thing, that is, and you could do this with that by just blending up all or part of it. But I am just going to put together a pico for me and Sandy and I should say. And part of what I've done on the recipe cards, I reposted tonight once I got back in the group, and I shared you can click on the actual recipe link, and it should take you to that recipe in the app, and it should allow you to see the calories or bites on your plan. It should convert. I made sure not to use the 0 bite toggle or anything, and I tracked it in mine on calories, so it should be good. The other thing is, most of those recipes are for more than just myself and Sandy. So what I'm actually going to make here is not going to be exactly what's in the recipe. So for example, when we come to the chicken salad part, I had put on there 10 ounces of chicken. Sandy and I don't need 10 ounces of chicken between the 2 of us, so I have 5 ounces. So what you're going to see me mess with here is just either for me or Sandy and myself, and so it's not, it won't be the same volume as the recipe that I had. But I thought, if you have anything that you want to prep for the week, so if you have something, eat one, freeze one, something like that, or if it's just something that's going to make your life easier. If you, for example, have peppers and onions in, say, let's say we're going to do egg bites or some type of frittata or something like that, and you had mushrooms or peppers or onions and they're whole in your fridge, now is the time that if you've got the time, you're already sitting down with me anyway. I figured if you want to go along with what I'm doing, then if I'll put the recipes up early and you can make the same thing. Or if you just want to take that time to do something to help yourself be successful, and this I do find really helps, even if you just cut up onions, peppers, and mushrooms, then that's something you don't have to think about when you're running short of time in the morning. It really can make all the difference. So I just thought it would give us a chance to sort of prep together if you wanted to, or if you had any questions, general questions, app questions, food questions, you're certainly welcome to use this time to kind of go over that too. And in the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit as I'm going about what I'm doing. But so first I'm just going to I'm going to get these, the Pico. I personally, and I put this in my notes, I am not a fan of the seedy guts in tomatoes. It's just me. I don't like the seedy guts. So I normally either buy heirloom tomatoes, maybe Romas, some beef steaks, the ones that aren't quite so seedy. But I found that I had 2 containers of these little grape tomatoes, and that's what I had, and they work just as fine. So for these particular ones, I'm just going to quarter those, and then if you had a bigger tomato, you could de-seed it if you wanted to and just keep the meat. You can toss the seeds out, you can put them in compost. You could use any type of tomato, or like a tomatillo, the little green Mexican tomatillos. That would make more like a Pico Verde, but you could certainly do that too. So for these, this was a little one, but all I'm basically going to do is just quarter them and put them in my bowl. So does anybody have anything that you find you prep your veggies, or is there something that you make at the beginning of your weigh week that makes your week easier? Or I guess also, do we have people that do the classic mini prep where you're fixing, 3 to 5 of the same meal? And does that help?
Lisa, I make a big pot of soup, so I can have that for lunch or dinner for most of the week.
So do you have a favorite soup at this time of year that you really like?
I've been making like a minestrone soup or a cauliflower soup.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I can bring the soup for lunch and have either a wrap or have it with dinner. And like you said, I don't like to make 4 meals of the same thing. Just because it's just me, and it'll go bad before I eat it all, because I get bored with the same thing night after night.
And see, that for me, I think it started for me. I was having big troubles with what's called histamine intolerance. And in that particular case, once a food is cooked, the longer it sits, whether it's refrigerated or not, the more the histamines grow. And so I had to stop having leftovers because they were affecting that. And I wasn't really a huge fan of them anyway. The only way around that is if I do something as a freezer meal. So if I actually, if I do a pot of, say, zuppa toscana, or like a chicken and gnocchi Olive Garden copycat kind of soup, if I do those and I immediately freeze them, they're okay. But even then, it might take me a couple of months, to go through, because I'll have one and I'll think, oh, that's really good, but I don't want it the next day.
Right. I would really like to start, prepping and preparing more. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants person. I just,
So that's one of the things. It's one of the things that I said. I was like, yeah, I don't have a plan on a particular day, and I don't say okay, on Monday I'm going to have this, and Tuesday, because sometimes I just don't feel like it. Sometimes I can't put the work in on that particular day. But a lot of times, what I've started doing at the beginning of the week is just looking through my outdoor freezer and looking at what proteins I have that I'm like, okay, am I chickened out? Do I want beef or pork this week more than something else? Do I want shrimp this week? So I'm not necessarily planning a specific meal. But then once I know what proteins I want to take out to thaw, then I can kind of go, okay, what creative can I do with this? What can I have that I either really liked, or can I find something new and interesting? And plans can completely go by the wayside. I made a beautiful meal plan list with lots of Mexi food on it last week, and by halfway through the week I was like, I'm kind of done with Mexi food. And, you know, some of the stuff that I had planned on taking out, I just left in the freezer, and now it's a new week for me anyway, so I'm trying to think about, you know, what do I want to do this week? And in my case, I also check with Sandy, and I'm like, what do you feel like this week? So, she wanted me to do, I either normally do an egg salad, a tuna salad, or a chicken salad that she has on like crackers. And then we're going to do a butter chicken this week. I'm actually going to do an Instant Pot butter chicken. And I'm going to try out, I ordered this pani puri, which is it's an Indian street food. I can't really describe it, and it's all the way in there, so I can't show you, but that it's a new kit and I haven't had it before, so I'm really excited to kind of do that and share that with her. And then the rest of it we kind of play by ear. She's not feeling the best at the moment. She's not really hungry, and so sometimes, like I talked to her this past week and she said, I don't really want too much, you know. I have taken her a bunch of freezer stuff, so she just wanted to go through that. But this week we've got a few things on the plan, and then but wing it, pretty much. Now so I have my beautiful tomatoes here, and in the recipe for the pico, I put a white onion, but you can absolutely use any onion, and I actually have just some red onion that I had cut up for another dish, and it's, again, my cooking is very much like, yep, that looks good. So you could use white onion, yellow onion, red onion. You could use green, you know, like spring onions or scallions, something like that. Whatever you have is going to be fine. Now, the next part of the pico is usually a jalapeno. And I have put the jalapeno in the recipe, but in the case of when I'm sharing something with Sandy, she doesn't like spicy stuff. So I'm actually going to use cucumber in the place of that. So if you want something mild, then don't worry about the fact that it says jalapeno. I did not bring any paper towels. Let me scrape my tomato guts over here. All right. But so how many people are spicy fan, and how many people would try like cucumber in it? Because I can do both, but I'm going to make it with cucumber this week because I'm sharing.
I used to not be a spicy person, but recently I just began to get a taste for it, or either I just decided to try it and I did like it. I was scared of jalapenos and stuff like that. I had a bad experience. We had a garden, and you know, I had these jalapenos I was going to make the popper things.
Yeah.
And I Googled it, and it said to wear gloves, and, you know, I didn't have any gloves, so I went ahead and when they say wear gloves, they would say wear gloves for a reason. When I cut those, you know, scraping the insides out,
Yep.
that juice got all over my hands, and oh my God, I thought I was dying.
And you can wash your hands so many times, and it may not come off.
Lisa, I Googled, you know, home remedies. It said soak them in milk. I soaked them. I didn't even have any milk. I ran down to the store and got some milk.
Oh, no.
Milk, it didn't work. I had ice cubes. That didn't work. I called the ER. They wouldn't give me any information. I called my pastor's wife. I was like, finally, I had to take the Tylenol pen to knock me out. And I know it was 7 hours. I'm telling you, that was supposed to hell I ever want to be. My hand was on fire.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. But anyway, I was, you know, back on track.
No, because I'm going to ask. So Nicole, Michelle, Kathy, Carla, Louise. Okay, so you guys that do spicy, do you have a suggestion for Penny besides wearing gloves? If you have jalapeno, habanero, something like that, and you've managed to get the oils on your hands, do you guys who like spicy foods have a suggestion for how to deal with that?
actually is like a giant fork, and the tines are close together. And you hold the jalapeno, you poke the jalapeno, and you slice between the tines.
Huh.
And that works beautifully.
Okay. Because, and I found...
I tried the milk. It didn't work.
And so, well, I think I watch a show on YouTube called, what's it called? It's the chicken wing show where he interviews people while they eat hot wings. I think it's called Hot Ones. And they often have a glass of milk, you know, for the people. And most of them are like, yeah, it's not helping. My dad, he killed his taste buds a long, long, long time ago. And he had some...
The show's called Hot Ones.
Hot Ones, yeah, I thought so.
Hot Ones, yeah.
Dad used to have some workers that came up from Mexico every year to work with him during the summer. And they would bring him habaneros and jalapenos and serranos and all these different chili pepper plants. And so he had like a section in the garden where he grew all of the really hot stuff. And he'd be out there in the morning, first thing, he's got a coffee in one hand and he's eating hot peppers in the other, and phew, that did not pass on to me. I'm trying to build my spice tolerance, but it's not very much.
Well, I did find out that the heat is within the gut, like the seeds and all that part.
Yeah, the seeds and the membranes are supposed to be the worst for that.
Right, yeah. I did learn that.
My daughter got used to the jalapenos the hard way. I used to grow them in my garden, and I had picked a bunch, and they were on the kitchen counter. And my daughter saw it, and she said, "What are these?" And I said, "Jalapeno peppers. They're very hot." She kept saying, "No, they're not." So I kept telling her, "Don't eat it." But her father bet her $50 if she ate it. He'd give her $50. So she ate it. She was on fire, but she got herself $50.
Now, how old was she at the time?
She had to be in her early teens or late mid-teens.
Okay.
And now for my kids, the spicier the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once you build a tolerance to it, it tends to be okay. And yes, Louise is right. They say spicy dishes burn more calories. They do, and actually, they tell you that the capsaicin, which is the spicy part of certain foods, capsaicin creates a thermogenic effect, which is many, probably late 80s, early 90s. There were people that were talking about thermogenics and like fat burning by raising your body temperature and all those kind of things. And it was that capsaicin was the key ingredient in a lot of those because it's supposed to kick everything up. So yes, takes more calories. You buy the cans of chopped... Kathy, you buy the cans of chopped what? No spice. Yeah, Mary, I'm kind of with you to a degree. I don't do a whole lot of spice. Now, the other thing that's debatable that a lot of people is cilantro. So some people really like cilantro. Some people can't stand it. Some people think it tastes like soap. Some people, and so you can use parsley in the place of this, or just not use cilantro at all. We are both okay with it, so I'm basically just going to put that in there.
More the merrier. I love cilantro.
So, yeah, I didn't like it until, I don't know, I was probably in my 30s, and my taste changed for some reason, and now I like it, but then, and it wasn't that it tasted soapy, it just kind of tasted weird, I guess. So, all right, so in here so far, I have my tomatoes, red onion, cucumber, cilantro. The only thing that I'm going to add to this, now you could do, seasoning-wise, some people will do like a coarse sea salt or normal salt and pepper. Sometimes I will use the Kinder's salt, pepper, and garlic blend. But in this particular case, I'm just going to put the lime juice in there, and I'm not going to do any salt and pepper. I'll taste it tomorrow or the next day once it's kind of all flavor melded. But generally, I don't find I need to salt it. It just depends on what you want. My limes look a little lemony because I got them on sale at Kroger. They were in the you need to use them soon. So they're not too bad. Sometimes they're a little dry, but this is pretty good. And how much lime juice you put in there, completely up to you. I like a lot.
I gotta get one of those.
This thing has been so much easier on my hands. It actually has silicone or rubber handles, but I've taken those off, and basically this one's all metal, and you just put it in there, and then it doesn't require too much squeezing like effort in my hands. So I have been very happy with that. So that's the juice of one. I'm thinking I brought two because I thought for sure I was going to need to. Let me just stir that up a little bit. Yeah. One thing is that if you put salt in and you have cucumbers and the tomatoes to a degree, they're going to actually release water. And so because you can keep this in the fridge for about 5 days, if you find that you get to day 3 and it's a little watery, then you can just drain the extra water out and it'll be fine. All right.
The seeds in, right?
Yeah, so if there were, now there's no seeds in limes, but if there were seeds in your lemons, it'll keep the seeds in here and just kick the liquid out.
Because I use the lemon rim, the wooden one.
Yeah, where you put it on and twist. Yeah.
And then I gotta pick the seeds out before I put the lemon into my food.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't tend to taste like much but the actual ingredients until it has a chance to sit together. But I'm just going to test it for lime juice level. That second lime was a good idea. Okay.
Lisa, someone was asking, where would you buy that? What's it called? What would they look up?
That thing? I'll put a link to it. I got it on Amazon. But Kroger has them as well, although I think theirs might be plastic. I'm not sure. I don't know. Let me go check real quick. I might have another type that's more commonly available. It's made by Good Cooks, which is, I can get mine from like Dollar General or Family Dollar. Let me see if I've got one of those in the kitchen. And I'll actually put this in the fridge while I go. And I'll take my limes. So, give me just a minute and I will be right back. And I used to have a yellow one, but I think, and I'm pretty sure it's made by Good Cooks, but it was plastic, and after about 8 or 9 months or so, it broke, and I thought maybe I had MacGyvered it and stuck it in the back as like a secondary backup, but this one I've had for years, and I went ahead and bought the more expensive metal one, because it just made...
Oh my Lord, I forgot we was recorded. It's okay.
What a crappy topic.
Oh goodness. Well, see, there you go. So
Literally.
people will have a giggle about it. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just catching up here. So Stephanie said she got hers on Amazon. Walmart may have it. Yeah. I'm sure Walmart or Target. Yeah. Carol said Walmart or Target. Yes. Okay. All right. So. All right. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I'm not going to have time to do both. I will let's see if I can rock through this chicken salad. Okay.
I don't think I've ever had Arby's chicken salad.
So they only do them during the summer. It's like a summer one, and who in their chicken salad likes fruit? So I am good with all kinds of crunchy stuff in there. The recipe that I linked to calls for celery, apple, grapes, pecans. Oh, okay. Do you guys say pecan? Like P-E-E can, pecan, or pecan? Somebody laughed at me that because I say pecan. So, but yet, is it pecan pie or is it pecan pie?
I say
I say
pecan.
pecan.
I think pecan.
Pecan.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
Tomato, yeah. But for people who don't like, those kinds of, who don't like fruit in their chicken salad, I understand. This will not be for you because it's got lots in there. But basically, you want chicken of whatever type. Now, this is just, I bought a rotisserie chicken from Sam's, and I was just stripping that down for a couple of different meals this week. And you can use canned chicken, rotisserie chicken, chicken breast, and in the recipe, since most of you would probably use chicken breast, I thought that way I was covering like my better balanced people who have that as 0. I put it in there as chicken breast, but in the notes you'll see that I said you can kind of just use whatever you'd like. I just realized I didn't wash my celery. So I'm gonna wait on the celery part, because this particular batch is looking a bit earthy. It's a little gritty in there, so I will wait on that one. And we will, we'll go with the apple, because I washed the apple and grapes. I don't know why I didn't do the celery. But I was thinking with the pecans, you don't have to use those. You could use walnuts. I'm going to do almonds because that's what I have, and they're just sliced almonds. Or if you are nut free, then you can absolutely just not put any in there. That's the thing about, I'll give you guys a recipe that you could base it on if you wanted to, but don't feel like just because it says you have to put, just because I built the recipe a certain way doesn't mean that that's how you have to make it. Season to your own taste. Use the ingredients that you like or have available to you. Like for the apple, I'm using a Granny Smith because I like tart apples. Because the chicken salad is quite creamy on its own, and I'm not a huge fan of like Red Delicious apples, and that's just a personal preference. Sandy said she doesn't care. She's fine with whatever. So, do you guys have particular preferences in terms of like apples? Are you a sweet, golden delicious, red delicious fan, or do you like the more? Granny Smith, Honey Crisp, and Fuji's are probably my favorite apples. What do you guys
We
like?
live in Washington State, so we have everything under the sun.
Oh,
But you cannot go wrong with the Gila apple.
with what kind?
Gila,
Okay.
they're red,
Yeah.
and they're really good.
What's it called again?
Gala, G-A-L-A.
Oh, Gala.
Oh. Now see, and I say that gala.
Oh,
Or gala, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, you're good. But I heard it wrong. What I heard was A-Y-L-A, Ayla. And so I was like, oh, that must just be one I don't know of. Thank you for clearing that up. That's great.
Gala.
My favorite is, I'm eating one right now because I haven't ate since Sunday night. But my favorite is this Envy.
Oh, those are good.
Envy one. Oh,
Yeah, Kroger just got those and something called Cosmic Crisps, maybe.
Christmas.
I
Yeah,
saw
those
those the other day.
And that's,
those are pretty good.
I know Kroger got those, and then they were having a special on Pink Ladies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had them in Beach.
I was a Granny Smith girl forever, but recently I just decided to change and try the red ones. But it's got to be crisp,
Yeah.
and then I've got the sweet ones. I don't like a soft, soggy, apple.
Oh, I know.
Really crisp.
Me
I like the way
too.
on the bags. I like the way on the bags now. Most of them have whether they're tart or crispy or that. So I like that. So I can't remember the ones I got, but I've already had 2 of them today.
Macintosh are good too.
Yeah, I was just having a look. So we've got Macintosh, Gala, Ambrosias. I don't know that I've had an Ambrosia. Anything red, Pink Ladies, Honeycrisp, Granny Smiths. Yeah. There's a local orchard here, and I don't know what strain they are actually, but they call them Wolf Creek apples. And I don't think that's a strain. I think it must be just like from that particular farm. And they kind of remind me of like almost a cross between a Honeycrisp and a Fuji. So they're hard like a Granny Smith, and I don't know. It's a very interesting flavor profile. And I only found them last year at this little farm stand, and they weren't there this year, and I don't know where the orchard is, but if I ever see those again, I'll get those too, because they were nice. Now, what about your grapes? So for me, I like my grapes like I like my apples. I like green grapes that are really super firm and that are a little bit on the tart side. So cotton candy grapes for me are icky. I don't like the sweet, really soft grapes. Where do you guys fall on the grape debate?
Seedless. I
See-
don't care, red or green, seedless.
Okay.
I'm red.
Reds.
I like them both, but yeah, I'm with Mary as long as they're seedless
Yeah.
and firm.
Although, I have to say, I tried muscadines. Have you guys ever had muscadine grapes? I tried those last year. I got some because nobody sells them around here. But they were sold through Misfit Market. And when I was doing my orders with them, I ordered a container just to kind of see. And they have seeds, but it's a very, very different grape. Red, firm, and seedless.
Muscadine,
Yeah.
a muscadine and a muscadine grape, the same thing.
Well, the only thing I know that's muscadine is a grape. I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything else.
I don't like those little issue seeds inside. The seeds are tiny, but that stuff around them.
Right, the stuff that's almost like, when you get those aloe drinks and it has the little floaty bits of pulp in it. Yeah, I don't like that. Green, seedless, purple grapes. I saw some. I think they're calling them. I need to be cutting grapes while I'm talking. What do they call them? Sapphire or starfire or something grapes, and instead of being, grape, they're like the really long, elongated, skinny ones. I haven't tried those yet. Candy canes. Now, is that what we sell as, is candy cane the same as what we might sell as cotton candy grapes? I've never heard of a candy cane one. So for these are quite small this time. So I think what I'm going to do is just cut these into thirds maybe. I don't mind bigger pieces, but when I'm cooking for Sandy, I try to remember to cut stuff down into smaller, easy to handle sort of things. And some of them, like the itty bitty baby ones, I'll just cut that one in half and that'll be fine. But I think on the other ones, I'll do them in thirds. And I put on the recipe, I was like 25 grapes and 1 medium apple. I mean, feel free to adjust it to however much you want in terms of like, if you really like grapes and you want a ton in there, then put a ton in there. If you don't want any apple in there, rock on. The same thing when we talk about seasoning. So a lot of chicken salad recipes use mayo, and you can certainly use mayo, or you could do half mayo, half Greek yogurt. You can use normal plain yogurt as well, like it doesn't have to be Greek with that slightly tart taste. But I find the plain yogurt tends to be, it's a little looser. Like Greek yogurt is tart because it's been strained and sat for longer. So if you're not a fan of Greek yogurt, you could try just a plain non-fat yogurt, but then the texture is very different. And if you ever make 2-ingredient dough, plain yogurt could be used for that, but it's not the best because it is a much looser yogurt. Now, in this particular recipe that I have, it also calls for Dijon mustard, just to give just a little bit of, kind of a little bit of bite without being spicy, per se, other than mustard spicy. And I like mustard in my chicken salad. I like it in my egg salad. I don't really put it in tuna salad, I guess. I hadn't really thought about that, but I don't think so. What about you guys? Now, since we're talking about the great brand or type debate, Sandy really likes, if I'm going to do something just for her, then and I'm using mayo, then I will use Duke's, because that's her favorite. And then I have people that are like, nope, only Hellman's. And then I have people that are like, only Kraft. And then I have people that are like, I don't use mayo. So,
only Blue Flake. No, I like Duke's too. My
Duke's?
husband's like only Blue Flake.
and I don't know what the deal with Miracle Whip is. If we have Miracle Whip lovers, y'all have to explain to me how, I don't know. That, and I like tart stuff, but Miracle Whip is just weird to me.
Yeah, me too.
Is it actually a mayo, or is it like a sandwich dressing?
Isn't it?
Well, it comes in a jar, like, at least here, it comes in a jar like normal mayo, so.
Right. It seems like on there somewhere it says salad dressing.
Okay, so maybe it's not an actual mayo then. Oh, Kathy.
When people,
I think people
when
use it
people
as
do
mayo.
use it, yeah, they put it on sandwiches. They make it good enough.
Yeah. I was trying to think, my dad used to like fresh tomatoes out of the garden, tomato and mayonnaise sandwich. Like that was it. Tomato and mayonnaise, maybe some cracked pepper. And I was trying to think of what mayonnaise he used.
Salt and pepper, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what he used though. I'm pretty sure it was probably Kraft, because I remember a blue lid, but I don't think it was Miracle Whip. But yeah. And I see, I shouldn't look over here while trying to cut, because I'm going to end up cutting my finger. Kathy said, Concord grapevines. Huh. Loved Concord grapes when I could get them fresh off the vine. I haven't found them in a long time. All right, let me see here. So, I have one medium or small-ish. Kroger has them where they're like 3 for $2 if you buy one size, and then they're like $1.98 a pound if you buy the other size. And I only needed a little one, so I've got the Granny Smith apple and the grapes. And then with the what I was going to tell you about the chicken. So this is already cooked. With the chicken, if you want the correct nutritional information for rotisserie chicken, that includes both the light and the dark meat. This is one drumstick, one thigh, and part of a breast. So when I track it for me and Sandy, I'm going to track light and dark meat. But in the recipe that I've given you, it's just breast meat, because I figured most people don't do the dark meat. Okay. Thank you, Michelle, for clarifying that the FDA has a specific recipe for mayo, and the Miracle Whip has to say salad dressing because they put other stuff in it. That's pretty cool. Classifies it as dressing. I love learning that. That's awesome. All right, so I'm just going to squish this down a little bit. Now the other thing, if you don't have canned or rotisserie, and we're talking about doing a little bit of prep, you can, if you have a slow cooker or an Instant Pot, or a sheet pan in the oven. There's nothing saying that you can't pre-cook and just use it as cooked. Now, for me, something that I've discovered is that if I'm going to use it as a freezer meal and I'm going to then reheat it at some point, I tend to cook whatever I'm going to use less than done. Because when I reheat it, if it's fully cooked and then it kind of gets rubbery or it dries out too much, so I'll basically cook something, say 3/4 of the way, and then freeze it like that. So I'm allowing for the, it to have more cook time afterwards. And that's just a personal preference thing. I think I've said before, with freezer meals, I don't like putting dairy, pasta, or potatoes in the freezer meal itself in the freezer, because I end up with it getting really, really soggy and I don't like the texture change. So I wait and then cook that to add. And it's kind of the same thing that I was learning when I was doing the freezer meals with the proteins. With something like beef, well, with ground beef, obviously you want to cook it differently, but with steak, I like medium rare anyway. So it's not, I don't mind if I don't want to cook it to a medium and then reheat it and then it ends up well done and then it's all dried out. So that was just, but in the case of this, because it's going to be eaten cold, it's not something that you have to really consider, so you just want to make sure and have it cooked. If you throw them in the crock pot or the Instant Pot or a sheet pan, or even just poach them in some broth on the stove, they will keep in the fridge for normally about 4 or 5 days, depending on what your fridge is like and what kind of container you have and what temperature your fridge stays at and things like that. But you can definitely cook the chicken ahead of time, so it makes it a bit easier for you. All right, I think the easiest way to put that in there is I'm just gonna dump that. All right, so that is, I've added my 5 ounces of chicken. I am going to do my 2 ribs of celery stalk, but again, because it's just us, I got the little ones off the inside, but I'm going to wash these first. Okay, now in terms of the dressing part for this, again, it's kind of going to be up to what you want. For the almonds, these are sliced pretty thin already, so I'm not going to worry about cutting them because they're already pretty fine. And this is just Kroger's pre-sliced almonds. And I think I'm going to go 1/4 of a cup is 180 calories. 1/4 of a cup. 4 tablespoons and 1/4 of a cup. So some of the stuff I had already weighed out, like the chicken before I came in, so I kind of knew, but this one I hadn't. So we'll make sure and measure this so I can track it properly later. Get in there. Okay. So that's that part. Now, seasoning wise, because the rotisserie chicken doesn't have any seasoning on it once you actually take the skin off, I like, Lowry's makes I don't know, it might be too shiny. I'll put a link in it. This is called Polo Asado, and it is it's an orange colored seasoning. It's not particularly spicy, but it does have a nice flavor to it, and I use it on a lot of chicken dishes, although I can tell that I've had it sitting near the steam on the stove because it got a little hard in the top. And then again, it's just kind of like just by eye, and I'll taste that and see. I don't want to make it too terribly salty. The sodium in this is 280 for 1/4 of a teaspoon, so it's not bad. I have some seasonings that are like 500-600. So, all right, there's that. We're going to stir that up, and then I'm just going to make a dressing with lemon juice, Dijon mustard, and I don't know what I was going to call that, but it was not yogurt. but yogurt is the answer. Okay. So let's just mix to combine. Check my messages. Okay. Yeah, Louise had a good point. If I only cooked my pasta to very, very al dente, then it wouldn't be mushy. And that's probably a good idea. I don't know. I like everything on the firmer side. So when I cook green beans or asparagus, I want them to still be crispy. I want my broccoli to not be soggy. I don't like the texture of frozen fruit, for example. You know, it's just kind of like I like the firmer part. So that's, and I do undercook some stuff, but I hadn't thought about like purposely undercooking pasta. That's a very good point. Thank you. Okay. Lemon. I guess I could make the dressing in another bowl and then combine it, but I don't have a dishwasher. So I try and save myself a little bit of hassle with not dirtying up too many extra dishes. Okay. And I'm going to go with 1 whole lemon in here. Juice of a lemon. Well, there were no seeds to be left in that one. That was nice. All right. So there is our lemon juice. Dijon mustard. Again, I like it, so I generally put about 2 tablespoons. If you are not a mustard fan, or you want a less strong mustard, then you could certainly use a different one or less mustard. And if I'm making something just for me, I actually weigh and measure everything precisely. But when it's for me and Sandy, I'm a little bit more lax about the ingredients that I use. I'll still track it completely, but I'm not as specific. I don't tend to weigh in grams, for example, and I was trying to make it easier for you guys by not putting... If I gave you everything in grams, I'm sure that some of you would be like, why did you do this to me? So I tried to remember to put things in usable, functional things. Like I think I put, for the Pico, I think I put like 3 tomatoes and 1 medium onion. So it's a little bit subjective there. All right. Now, yogurt. I think in the recipe I had half a cup. Again, it's going to depend on what you like. I'm just going to use the other end of my, so I don't put mustard in my yogurt, I'm just going to use the other end of my spoon here, but it's still a tablespoon. I'm thinking this is probably closer to maybe, I'm guessing 1/3 of a cup is what I'm going to need. And I'm not worried about it being overfilled, like completely level, because between each scoop, I'm still leaving some in there. So again, I'm not being as precise. That is about 1/4 of a cup.
Is that Greek yogurt?
Yeah, this particular one is Kroger's, that way, Greek,
Yeah.
Zero yogurt. Yeah.
Okay.
And
it's not too tart with the lemon and the grapes and...
It completely depends, because I like the tart, which is why I put it with the lemon and the mustard and the Greek yogurt. But if you wanted a more traditional style, then using like the plain non-Greek yogurt, or even a half mayo, like a half light mayo, half normal yogurt, would definitely tone down the tartness. And
Yeah.
I've had COVID 3 times since 2019, and I still have, it's affected my sense of taste and my sense of smell. And so for me to taste something, it has to be way stronger than it used to be.
Oh, okay.
And I said to Sandy when I started taking stuff down to her, I was like, you know, do you want me to tone it down? Is there too much seasoning? Is there too much salt? Is there, you know, is this okay for you? And we've kind of come to a good place where she's pretty close. But in a lot of the recipes, I tone down what I would tell you guys to put in there because most people don't have a broken a broken taster. Okay, so sorry, that's a little loud there. All right, so this is how much dressing, that was 4 heaped tablespoons basically of the yogurt. Now, if you like it to be more than that, if you want it to be sort of creamier, you could certainly add more in there. And I'm going to see what this looks like in the morning, because I was thinking I would need 1/3 of a cup, but that's only 1/4 of a cup. That is good for me. But I'll just check, because if I get to, once I put the celery in and I kind of check on it tomorrow, if it looks like it's going to dry just a little bit, then I might add another 2 tablespoons of yogurt to it. But this in particular one has the chicken, apple, grapes, almonds in the place of pecans. I will put the celery in. And then it has Greek yogurt, Dijon mustard, the juice of 1 lemon, which if you're not a big tart fan, half is plenty. And then I have used the Polo Asado seasoning, but you could use really anything that you wanted to. You could use something like the Kinder's, where it's the salt, pepper, and garlic blend. You can put fresh cracked black pepper. I have some granulated garlic or garlic powder that I was going to do in my dressing. But I've already run over. So, especially if you guys want to see Jordan tonight too. We're going to have to wrap up because he's going to start in 15 minutes. All right. So this is kind of the format that I want to do moving forward. Is next week, I want to talk about conquering your fears. And I want to pair that in cooking with those of you who have an Instant Pot and are afraid of it, haven't used it, haven't opened it, don't know what to do with it. I actually went out today and I bought an Instant Pot from a lady off of the yard sale group, because my electric pressure cooker is made by a company called Chef IQ, and it's I can't show you how to use an Instant Pot if I don't have one. So she got given it, and we were talking, and she said, I'm scared. She said, my mom used an electric pressure cooker on the stove, and she used to make us kids get out of the kitchen, and she was, you know, she canned, and we were always afraid it was going to blow up and glass was going to get everywhere. And she said,
Rattle on the top.
Yeah. And she said, you know, her brother had given it to her last year. She'd never used it. She took it out of the box, and she said, it sat on my counter, and I don't want to use it. I don't want to do it. So if you are in that space, we're going to talk about fears that you might have in terms of your wellness journey, your weight loss journey. I know a lot of people are concerned about loose skin, or, you know, coming out the other side of this in some way unhealthier. So we'll talk about that. And then the cooking part, we're going to do 2 parts. I'm going to show you how to run a water test, which is just really simple. It's going to show you what it's going to do and the kind of sounds it's going to make. And then I'm going to show you about pot in pot, which is how I cook all my grains, so you never have to worry about a burn notice. And so if you have an Instant Pot or you're interested in that, get it out, have it ready next week, and we're going to do it all together.
Looks like I go to the gym, not be going to be there by 9.
Okay. I'm going to hush now. Thank you guys for joining me. And I will... everything here that I did tonight is all posted in the group for you already, and then we will see you next week. Thank you for your patience.
I really enjoyed it. Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you being here.